Welcome back to another episode of In Depth and Out Loud with me, Dubbz. So now, if you are a student that is interested in pursuing a career in public relations, whether you want to work with big brands or you want to work with influencers, you know, public relations is about making an impact. And today, you are in for a treat because we're going to be chatting to Anele, who's head of PR at Unilever, and she's going to be telling us about her journey and also giving us some tips how to make it in this industry. Anele, hi, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Me too.
Yeah. So your name is Dubbz?
Yeah.
Like, that's your real name?
Yeah.
It's giving auntie, big sister.
Do you know what it means? You know where it comes from?
Tell me more.
You don't know? No, I'll tell you
I know
after.
it's like Mamngane or Mamkulu.
Dabao.
Dabao. Yeah.
That's the one.
Is that your name?
That's the
I love
one.
that for you. You're the right person for this podcast.
So you started your career with a law degree, right?
Yes.
And then you transitioned into public relations. Tell us about that journey and also what inspired the switch.
So people always find this fascinating. Every time I share my bio, I know that that's going to be the question in every single interview that I get into. So I'm like, okay, I need to have the story straight because everybody wants to know. And really it is when I was in school, I was an all-rounder. So I dabbled in stage, performance, dramatic arts. I did physical sciences in school. I did biology. So I was never really sure what I wanted to do. And then when I got to about grade 10, I think I realized that I didn't really like the sciences. I was very outgoing. I was doing debating, public speaking, and I thought of myself as an orator. So let me go into law. And that was the advice that I was getting from everyone because, you know, we come from families where it's like you become a doctor,
a lawyer,
or an engineer, or a lawyer, right? And I actually don't blame anyone for that advice. I think people will share with you based on what they know. And at the time, I didn't even know that there was something called public relations or media. But I just knew that I loved to speak. So I went into law on that basis. And when I got into the degree, I just realized, first of all, it was very combative because you are arguing a case, whether you are doing commercial transactions. So the thing about law is that it's very broad. It's not appearing in front of a judge, right, every day. And for a lot of people, you may never appear in front of a judge. It's a lot of drafting of contracts. You may be doing evictions or, you know, depending on the field that you're in. But it's very combative because law is about solving a problem. You don't go to a lawyer unless you have a problem.
Yeah, 100%.
I call my lawyer because I'm getting a divorce. I call my lawyer because someone's trying to, take me to court. So for me, I found it very combative, even when I was reading the case law and arguing like in exams. And I thought, how else can I use the skill set that I have and not discard this experience, this law degree, the writing, the legal drafting, the analytical skills? How can I transition into something that feels more aligned to me? So while I was in university, I was also doing broadcasting. I was on a show on SABC One called One Day Leader. I also did a show called Future Leaders. And I had already became very interested in broadcasting and very interested in television while I was doing my law degree. And I thought, you know, in my third and final year, I thought, actually, maybe I could just transition into this space and I can make current affairs TV, because when I did do work in that space, they were very excited about the fact that I could do research, legal research. I could draft arguments, and that was very useful in the current affairs space. So then I did TV for a little bit, and I knew that TV was, you know, obviously something that was sort of dying out because social media was growing even in those days. Like I was very big on Twitter, I was on Instagram, and I wanted to become an all-rounder in that space as well so that I could be more valuable, and if I wanted to transition into corporate, I could have that opportunity. So I did a lot of writing for, you know, your Sunday Times, Daily Maverick, and they would pay you per word count. So it would be like 4 Rand per word. Every time I churn out an article, I would get like a nice 2,000, a nice 3,000. But eventually the point that I'm making is that I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have our story figured out at 18, at 21. And for me, whenever I found that actually I don't think this is right for me, I allowed myself to evolve and allowed myself to transition. So that's how I've gone from law and using whatever skill sets and knowledge that I gained from that degree to slowly jump into PR, because it wasn't also overnight, right? It was a series of experiences and opportunities that I had to jump into so that I could actually be in corporate and be in this role.
Sure. So, I mean, you're in beauty, right? And it is trending on platforms such as TikTok and Instagram. How is it doing PR for beauty at this time, you know? And also, what are some of the challenges that you see and the opportunities?
There's a lot of competition. I think there's a lot of great brands, emerging brands that are on the pulse of current trends. So I think if you're a beauty brand today, you need to have some kind of tool that helps you to know what the trends are. But I think just beyond that, you need to be making the trends. You need to be leading the trends. And that's those are the people that are winning, right? So for example, the CGI campaigns that have recently come out where you see on social media an advert that looks real, but it's actually not. I don't know if you've seen CGI campaigns where
Tell us more.
So there was this particular, I'm not going to mention the brand, where there was a billboard and there was a hair actually coming out of the billboard and there was wind blowing and it looked so realistic, and they were advertising a hair care range. So it looked like somebody had put up a billboard, let's say in Nelson Mandela Square, and there was hair actually coming out of the model towards the street. So every time the wind blows, the hair blows. And then it's like, oh guys, have you seen this in Sandton City? And then you go to Sandton City and it's not there. So it's this AI technology that is creating these realistic adverts, and it was actually pioneered by beauty, right? So I think that's an example where people are creating new trends.
How do you keep up with all these trends though?
How do we keep up, right?
Because it's hectic.
It's hectic. I think you need good agencies. You need to have good agencies, and you need to have the passion for beauty. You need to be consuming the content. You need to know who are the up-and-coming content creators. What are people excited about? Beauty is all about buzzwords. So 1 minute it's vitamin C that is trending. The next minute it's niacinamide. The next minute it's ceramides. So you really also, it's not just glamour. There's a whole lot of research behind it. I'm trying to find out what are the buzzwords, what are the ingredients that you need to call out in your product that resonates with consumers. What are consumers looking for right now? I actually want to give you an example. We come from, when I was growing up, there were things that were not trendy that have become quite trendy now. One of which is dark skin, like embracing dark skin. Skin 100%. Lightening products were actually quite popular in those days. And now you see that makeup brands are even creating a range of darker shades to actually reflect the diversity, the richness of African skin, which is something that was not happening before. When I was growing up, I had bushy brows. And I remember just being obsessed. Whenever I would get an allowance or money, I would go and I would get my brows waxed, because I was in, right? We were shaving off the brows and we were drawing a pencil.
Draw that line.
Do you understand? And today we are drawing on the brow, like full brow, and people are even filling it up. We're getting tattoos. So you constantly have to be engaged, because the trends can change like this.
Evolving all the time. They are
so evolving, and I think for me, the one piece of advice I would give to somebody that wants to go into beauty is you have to be curious. You have to be agile. You have to be flexible, because trends are constantly changing, and it's the consumers that are actually driving the trends, and the brands then quickly have to catch up to make sure that their portfolio transforms. Another, I think, great example is the natural hair movement, where when we were growing up, having straight hair
was the thing.
That was the thing. And there was no brands that were actually really catering to African hair. We didn't use terms like 4A, 4B, 4C.
The natural look. Nobody was catering for that.
No, we didn't have products that really could, absorbed by the hair, and you understand, oh, this is my hair texture, high porosity, low porosity. And we learn these terms in the space, but you also learn it from the culture by being immersed in the content creators. And today it's so easy, because before it was the magazines that was the only source of information, and now I think anybody can become like a source of information and a source of authority. We didn't have Google, so you can literally go online, educate yourself. We didn't have YouTube. So for me, I think beauty is in an exciting space. There's so much opportunity, not only for brands, but for consumers to lead, direct, drive trends. But also there's opportunity for us to, I think, better our products so that it continues to evolve along with the consumer.
So I think it was yesterday, or I think it was a week ago, there's this new trend. It's a mask, right? You put it on and you look all glossy and it's amazing.
Yes.
And then you remove it and your skin is like baby soft. Yeah. And then there's glass skin as well. And I was obsessed, because I was literally sitting on my TikTok and I was like trying to follow these places, these brands. And then you go on Instagram because you want to verify if it's really there. And then you're on Take-A-Lot because you're like, I want to try this thing out, right?
Yes.
But also what I've learned with beauty is one person can give a bad review, right? Say this didn't work for me.
True.
I had acne problem and I purchased this brand and it didn't work for me, or it made me worse. And then somebody else will say, actually, it's incredible on my skin, And I think people need to realize that, because we have such different shades, different skin, hormones, a whole bunch of things, especially with women, where what works for you might not work for me, but that doesn't mean the brand isn't good.
Our consumer now, especially people who are consuming beauty at the level that you speak of, is a very educated consumer. In the old days, people were not even talking ingredients at the level that we're talking now, right? Niacinamide, like all of these buzzwords. People were not really interested. It was like, will it remove my blemishes? We were talking benefits.
Yes.
Everything was focused around benefits. Is it going to make me anti-aging? All those kind of things. Those were the buzzwords. Today, people are talking ingredients because they want to understand what is the ingredient that is actually linked to my pain points. So if I have uneven skin tone, I want to understand what is the ingredient that actually drives that, because then I don't have to go for a specific brand. I just need to find a brand within my price range. Affordability comes in here, that actually has the ingredients that I'm looking for that will address the concerns.
Issue.
So I think for me, it goes back to what you're saying as well, that not every brand is going to work for you, because the mixes are different. And the way that your skin reacts is different. There's genetics, there's diet, there's things that, come into play, whether you're working out or not, and, the weather that you live in, the climate, that can also impact the performance of your products. That's why today brands will do research in each country so that the specific formulation will actually reflect the people of that country and the conditions of that country. That's why sometimes when you're using a moisturizer in summer, it's not as nourishing for you in a change of season. In winter, you have to double up. You have to change maybe to something else. So I think it's really our responsibility as well as consumers to understand the needs of our own skin. I think for me, like, there's so much information right now online. So educate yourself, inform yourself. And if you are interested in going into beauty, then you need to be that person, that credible voice of authority, using each and every platform. Like I use LinkedIn, I use Twitter, Instagram. I think you cannot afford to just be on one platform because it works for you. You really have to be everywhere to drive that credibility for yourself.
How do you measure if your PR campaigns are a success or not?
Yes.
What is it you look for?
The age-old question. You know, I think that we are a bit obsessed now with data, and it's like overwhelming everybody. You know, it's too much data. We are not allowing our intuition to lead us. So for me, I am about KPIs. I love KPIs, and I'm going to answer your question. But I do just want to say sometimes I get frustrated with where we are taking the industry, where everything is data focused and data reliant, because that makes us risk averse. If you are coming up with something that is new and groundbreaking, and you don't have the statistics or the data to back up why you think this is a good idea, you sit in the boardroom and everyone will say, oh, we don't think it's going to work. And at the end of the day, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to public relations, creative and big ideas, which this happens before you measure the campaign, I think we must have a little bit of flexibility to say, okay, even if we can't guarantee the success of this idea, we can't guarantee the success of these partners, because sometimes the partner that has the biggest followers, the biggest engagement, the numbers all look great, and in the execution phase, you find that actually there's no synergy here between my brand and this individual. And this pretty picture that was painted by the stats, it's actually not really yielding the fruit that I thought that it would. So that's the one caution that I would say, is that I think as well as public relations professionals, we shouldn't be afraid to go against the grain, and we shouldn't be afraid to our roles to counsel and to advise. And even if it's just based on a gut instinct, I think that's fine. Like, that's my view. Now, on the measurement, I think earned media value is very powerful. Because when you show how this is translating for the brand in rand terms, that's very powerful. And you can measure, there are different tools on social media that can measure this, that if you get 4 posts from an influencer and you've invested X amount, the reach that it's generated for you is 10 million rand, right? So you can show that actually you got 4 times off of your investment. I think where the issue sometimes comes about is we want to see quick gains. We want to see quick results. And both from the influencer side and both from the brand side, there's this reluctance to look at it in a long-term way. The influencer is looking at it as like, I just want to get my bag, I want to get in and out of here, and I want to go to the next brand. The brand is looking at it that I'm paying you, 60,000 rand, and I want to see returns now, today. And for me, I think having been in this space, I think we need to evolve now. We need to progress to a place where to drive more authenticity, where influencers and brands are not chopping and changing individuals all the time. And now it's not authentic because last week you were telling me about this brand. Today you are telling me about this. Now I get as the brand, it's new people all the time.
All the time.
Exactly. And I think we need to invest in long-term relationships, which means that the KPIs, although they need to be there, we need to give it time to perform. We need to give this campaign time to perform.
Do you think maybe you need like long-term contracts 100%. With your influencers, just in terms of building these relationships with influencers and also beauty brands, that it's not a once-off kind of thing and then on to the next?
It's more especially important with beauty brands because people become attached to their beauty brands. That's one of the things that you take everywhere with you. Like if I'm using a particular product because that works for my skin, if I forget those products when I'm traveling, I'm gonna go out of my way to replace them and to find them. Like that's the level of attachment we have to our beauty products. It's not like a lip gloss, like, there are things that you are willing to compromise on. But because your skin is the largest organ in your body and it's the first thing that people see about you, and, working on Dubbz, we know that there's a research that speaks about how confidence and self-esteem are linked. And this is all got to do with the way that we perceive ourselves and body image. And body image is linked to the health of our skin. body, you know, all these kinds of things. And I think for me, if we're not building these long-term partnerships, we're actually also not able to show that this product really works.
I was actually about to say, I find it interesting because we're going to see this face, right, just for like a week or 2 weeks, and this person is claiming to us that, oh my word, this product will get rid of the dark spots, this product will get rid of the acne. But in reality, we have not seen the journey. So if it is a little bit of a longer contract with you guys, then I think also the results to your audience, to the consumer, it would seem more authentic that, you know what, this person has had a journey with this product. Because when we purchase a product, especially for skin issues, it's not going to work in 3 weeks, is it? Or 4 weeks. You need to give it a chance, at least 3 months. So it's a journey even for the consumer. And I love what you're saying, for it to even show in these campaigns. I think that would be incredible.
Because what is the test of whether or not your product is amazing? It's repeat purchase.
100%.
So if your influencer is only supporting the brand for one campaign, and then for the next campaign, they've moved on to another brand, I think we have failed as PR professionals, because our job is to drive the reputation of the brand, of the business. And if we're not doing that in a way that people can see through that, okay, you know, this is not believable, then I think it also calls into question the reputation of the industry. So that's why we need to change the way that we do things, and we are calling for greater transparency in advertising, greater transparency, especially with influencer marketing. And I think that's the next wave. Like, people are, I think, just tired of content that is being churned out endlessly that is not meaningful. We need to go back to content that is meaningful, conversations that are meaningful, that have depth, that have that authenticity. That word gets thrown around so carelessly nowadays, but I don't think you can build anything substantial overnight. So even these relationships, we need to invest. It needs to be a two-way partnership and a two-way investment that will really help, I think, the reputation of the influencers as well. And the reputation of our brands.
Speaking of reputation, let's talk about PR crisis, right? What happens when you are in that kind of situation, especially in a case where a beauty brand has received negative reviews, or something happened and it's just negative all over social media, and it's a clear PR crisis? How do you deal with that?
You know what? So I think the first thing is to assess if it is a clear PR crisis, because sometimes something looks like a crisis and it isn't. If it's ingredients related and it's a reaction that is subjective, because that can happen, right? Sometimes people don't know what they are allergic to and not allergic to, and they can be an incident that is very isolated. So then we would have to investigate with that individual. Like, we would send them a message. We might have to pick up the product to test the product, and we would reach out personally to that individual to apologize, to perhaps even offer to send them products from our range that they could try out. So for me, I think there's the smaller crisis that can be managed with an individual on an individual basis. And then there is something that is much bigger than that causes us all sleepless nights, right? Where maybe an advert was interpreted to be sexist or racist, and this now goes to the core of what the brand stands for, the mission of the brand, and whether or not you understand your consumer and you represent them. Now, those are big issues, and I think on issues like that, the first thing that you need to do is to appoint a spokesperson. Who is the person that is going to, you know, sort of be the face
and respond
to this issue? What are they going to say? So you need to do some scenario planning. What are the potential questions that might come about, and how can these answers be interpreted in a way that would cause this to spiral? Is there a way to issue and release a statement? The problem with the statement is that it's quite one-sided. It's not a conversation.
True.
And when a brand is in a crisis, you don't want to make it seem like you are sitting behind a wall and you're inaccessible. So you need to do a balance between issuing out a statement just to clarify, that however this thing was interpreted is not the intention of the brand, but at the same time being open to being probed by journalists, by the media, because that creates a two-way conversation. And I think that's where you can build the connection with the public and regain the trust of the public. I think a lot of times people want to hide when there's a crisis. But it's important to actually go out and face it and to put forward a spokesperson that you can trust.
So what advice do you have for students who want to pursue a career in public relations?
I think you need to work on your public speaking. I think you need to work on your writing skills. You need to be curious. AI is coming up right now. So you need to figure out what are the things that are happening in the AI space and how do they impact you. When ChatGPT came out, people were so scared about content writing jobs and content creation jobs being taken over by AI. We've now moved to a place where AI can even generate images and visuals.
Yes. So
that used to be a job that was done by a photographer and a videographer and a makeup artist. Those are so many jobs that are now taken away so that the AI can generate an image that can go onto a billboard. So I think it's about doing the research as to what are the changes in the industry, how do they impact you, and how can you stay ahead? Because you can leverage AI actually to help you. And at the end of the day, I think when it comes to public relations, it's very human-centric. It's creativity driven. And if you are great at what you do and you bring both the skill set and the charisma, you won't be replaced. You are irreplaceable. So just to summarize, I think for me, it's just to work on your skill set, which is the writing, which is staying ahead of the trends, understanding what are the tools that you can leverage, what is happening in the AI space, and building good relationships, stakeholder relationships with the media, with your government partners, with NGOs to drive CSI and purpose, if that's a big core part of your brand and how you reach your consumers. So yeah, those would be the areas that I would invest in.
All right. Well, in one word or one phrase, what's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received, it's from a movie called A Walk to Remember. And the character shares a Dolly Parton quote, and it's find out who you are and then do it on purpose.
Oh, I like that. What do you love about your job?
What do I love about my job? There are so many things to love. I love working with women. I think women are so fun to be around. I like how the work that we do in beauty makes people feel good about themselves. Even though, it feels very vain, but it's so great to be at like a Tresemme event or a Dubbz event. And the women, their hair is hairing, their skin is skinning, and they just feel good about themselves. I love being around that energy.
That's beautiful. Your favorite South African saying, word, phrase?
No RSA, no DNA, just RSA.
Current song on repeat.
Don't hurry love. Don't hurry love.
Okay.
Who's it by? It's an old Supreme song. You Can Hurry Love, actually. It's called You Can Hurry Love.
You Can Hurry Love.
Yeah.
Okay. And words you live by?
Yeah, words I live by is just to not be afraid to do hard things. Yeah.
Get yourself out there.
Do the hard things and do them well.
Thank you so much, Anele, for joining us. It went by so quickly.
Yeah.
So insightful.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Dubbz.
Well, there we go. Remember, it's all about hard work, improving your skill set, communications, all the nice things. Until next time.